Chicago like Andy, Rachel, Andrew, right? Yeah. This past spring, I bought a house. It's a cozy little bungalow on a tree-lined street in a quiet southeast Portland neighborhood. And what won me over about this particular house was the yard. It was obvious to me that the previous owner had loved this yard, had created an escape from the hustle and bustle of daily life. And even though it was now tangled and chaotic with weeds, it was a garden waiting to happen. When I moved in at the end of May, I ignored the city of boxes that filled all of the rooms all throughout the house because there was a garden to plant. And I enlisted some friends and they helped me rescue those garden beds from those tangles of weeds, and we prepped the soil, and then I planted. I planted tomatoes, 15 varieties of heirlooms and 5 varieties of cherries. I don't do small. I planted summer squash, zucchini, patty pan, Lebanese, and cube of butter. I planted basil, mounting, Greek columnar, sweet Italian, and Thai. And I spent my summer cooking from my garden, and I ate those meals on the back patio, overlooking the sea of green, the fruits of my labor shaded by the grape arbor above. When I think of this plenitude and my good fortune, it's really hard to me to wrap my head around the fact that just 3 years ago, almost to the day, on November 2nd, 2011, I was riding my bike home from work on the last day of my radiation treatments, as exhausted as I'd ever been in my entire life. Mike was right, it kicks your ass. I remember cheering myself on with each stroke, pedal, pedal, pedal. Rachel, you can do it, just a few more blocks. I also remember arguing with my husband that evening on what was supposed to be a celebratory day about manners, because I had my elbow on the table, holding my weary head in my hand. And it's easier, even crazier for me to think to 2008, 3 years prior to that, it actually seems like someone else's life entirely. My husband and I just bought an English fixer, and I thought I was on my way to having it all. I was clicking off the items on the checklist of my life. Graduate school, check. Husband, check. House, check. Next up, dog, garden, 2.5 kids. And we got the dog, a sweet mini Aussie named Mika Blue. But the garden and the kids would have to wait because we had careers to establish and a house to renovate. And so time and my life with it hurtled forward like a freight train, years passing without me really thinking about whether the pictures I was painting in my head matched the reality I was living. If I stopped, what would I see? Well, I was about to find out because on March 29th of 2011, my train derailed. At 35 years old, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, better known as breast cancer. And actually, I'm the one who found the lump. And it was more of a hard, irregular ridge than the perfectly round pea or pearl that I imagined it would be. And it played hide and seek with my hunting fingers. Is it there? Oh, there it is. Oh, wait, where did it go? And because it didn't fit my idea of what a tumor would feel like, I waited to do anything about it. And my brain to this day will not allow me to remember how long I waited. 3 months, 6 months, a year. But I finally brought it to the attention of my physician at my annual exam, and she couldn't even find it. When she finally found it, she said, well, it doesn't feel like cancer, but we don't mess around with these things. And so she kicked off a cascade of events, including a normal mammogram, yes, it was normal, a 98%, we're sure it's benign, ultrasound, and then the definitive needle core biopsy. Miss Andre, You have cancer. What? Me? I can't have cancer, I'm young. Old people get cancer. Am I gonna die? I'm gonna die. How long did I wait? Did I wait too long? So began my crash course in Breast Cancer 101. Lesson number 1, no, I wasn't gonna die right now, not today. You know, down the road, it's a possibility, but my cancer was slow growing. So it had been there for 2 to 5 years before I even felt it. Lesson number 2, not all breast cancers are alike, nor are all treatment plans. I was lucky. I caught mine early. So I had choices, I had decisions to make. And I know they say choice is power, but I'll tell you what, when all of your options essentially suck, I just wish someone would tell me what the hell to do sometimes. I mean, do I get a mastectomy with no radiation, but chance the recurrence with that little bit of breast tissue that's left in the chest wall? Or do I conserve my breast and get a lumpectomy with radiation, but incur the risk of cardiovascular disease and a host of other cancers, you know, like 20 or 30 years down the road? And I'm not even getting started with the risks and side effects of chemotherapy. But in the end, my decisions led to 3 surgeries, 3 months of chemotherapy, and 33 days of radiation. Which brings me to lesson number 3 in my last lesson of Breast Cancer 101, which is that I would be trading my fertility in for survival. So, just so I understand, Dr. Medical Oncologist, so what you're telling me is that not only do I have a life-threatening disease, but the treatments that you're going to use to save my life are going to throw me into menopause at 35? And even if that doesn't happen, even if chemo doesn't throw me into menopause, you want to starve me of estrogen for the rest of my life. Oh, but I have options? Really? Oh, I can do fertility treatments between my surgery and chemotherapy with the risk of feeding my cancer with estrogen. But even if I do it, you'd never want me to carry a pregnancy? How? How did I go from planning a family the normal way to thinking about surrogacy in 0 to 60 seconds? But I was lucky. Someone talked to me about this. Not everyone is so lucky. A lot of young cancer survivors find out after it's too late. And I kind of think about it as like kind of the dirty little secret of cancer in young people. And also why programs like the AYA are so important. But let's get back to November 2nd, 2011, the last day of my big gun treatments. As I was saying, I was as exhausted as I'd ever been in my entire life. I was stripped down, I was raw, my rose-colored glasses were off, and I was seeing my life how it was, not how I wanted it to be. And unfortunately, I didn't like what I saw. It's not that I didn't like myself. I've always had a really strong sense of self, and I think that people that know me can tell you that or substantiate that. It's more that the person looking at me from the mirror was kind of a shadow or a ghost of the person I thought I was or I wanted to be. And cancer placed me smack dab in the middle of that reality and exposed my tendency for wishful thinking. And that was not a luxury I could afford anymore. I couldn't hope for my life to get better. I had to make my life better. So here I was thinking my battle was over and my fight was actually kind of beginning. I was picking up the pieces. So what did I do? I had to do things, and so I waged a war for peace. I was going to fight for peace, damn it. And I was not to be deterred. And so I joined a gentle yoga class for women healing from cancer. I joined mindfulness meditation for cancer survivors. I joined no fewer than 3 of the offerings of the AYA program at OHSU. My health and my wellness became my #1 priority. I joined a gym, I got a personal trainer, and I started weight training because I was going to stave off the likely weight gain and bone loss from this early menopause crap. And I put one foot in front of the other. And at this time, I kind of thought I would start feeling better, but I didn't feel better. And instead, there was this anxiety, and it was rising, and it was like stuck in my chest right here. And with my eyes wide open, I could no longer ignore what the problem was, even though it broke my heart to admit it to myself. And at the end of that first post-cancer year, I learned the very difficult lesson that peace doesn't come from a fight, it comes from letting go. And I let go of my marriage. When I walked out of the door of that home my husband and I had built together, I stepped out of my past and walked directly into my grief. I grieved everything, all of my losses, all at once. I grieved the loss of my innocence, my sense of control, my ease. I grieved the loss of my fertility, the family I thought I would have. I grieved the loss of friends that I lost during cancer treatment, the ones I was going to lose because of the divorce. I grieved the idea of a life I thought I was living, and the time it felt or seemed like I wasted. And I sat with the fear and the uncertainty that filled all of the spaces. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do what I loved and what was important to me. And I danced, and I swam, and I cried, and I rode my bike, and I walked my dog, and I screamed, and I chased sunrises and sunsets and stopped to smell the night blooming jasmine and the peanut butter trees. I planted my first garden in 10 years. I tore at the land with my pain and my sadness and my loss, and I sunk my hands into the soil and hung on for dear life. I challenged myself to take risks, to try new things. I learned to surf, I learned to sail. I did my first world naked bike ride. And I made new friends. I met some really awesome people. And I put one foot in front of the other. And after another year, I thought we may be done grieving, and guess what? I wasn't. Grief wasn't done with me. So I grieved some more, but slowly I discovered my strength. I also got really acquainted with all of my weaknesses, step by step, bit by bit, until I arrived at the door to my future. The door to a cozy little bungalow on a tree-lined street in a southeast Portland neighborhood. Someone once asked me if cancer had changed me, and I had said, no, I don't think so. I think it's more that it allowed me to be the person I was always supposed to be. And I think that's still partly true. But the exercise of sitting down to answer the question, what is your new normal for this story, made me realize I have changed quite a bit. In ways that I don't really know how to describe, but I can say they are for the better. Healing from cancer has been my agent of change. And it was hard, it felt like trudging through mud. And life is still hard. You know, I still fall down. But I get up, and I move through the pain and the sadness and the disappointment. And I'm always grateful for the light and the beauty I find on the other side.